And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is when realities collide. We each live in our own little world, and our world of interpretation, projection, perception. And it's something of a miracle, actually, to me anyway, when we manage to find connection across these realities. But what about when realities collide? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your molecules, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your molecules, your electrons, creating this brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you and us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. It's been a minute. It's so good to have you joining us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's with us. I had the occasion to spend a week in New York for an event, and it is still leaving my head spinning and just it was an experience that could have been a transformational sitcom or reality TV. It was just crazy, crazy, crazy on so many levels. And it left me considering how do we connect across our vastly different orientations and perceptions and projections into the world. And in many cases, we manage to bridge those gaps, or at least the gaps become less apparent. It's not necessarily right in our faces, the gaps. And in this I call it the cauldron that we were in, I would venture to say that the gaps were really apparent, and there was all kinds of conflict and it was so clear how very different people's orientations can be. And so the question that is in my head, it's not so much whose reality is true, because we each have our own perceptions and our own biases around this, right? But how do we create bridges across these different perceptions? How do we create ways to connect? Good morning, Sue. Welcome. So good to have you here this morning. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for keeping, I presume there were replays, and I'm so grateful for you and Dido taking care of all the logistical ends of things, keeping Enlightened World running in so many ways. So much gratitude and appreciation to you. Anyway, I just find it fascinating, and activating to be addressing or to be confronted with the radical dissonance that can happen through people's different perceptions of the same circumstances, right? So we're all in this experience, sharing an experience, but we all have our own interpretations, perceptions, projections, all of that. And when these perceptions are deeply at odds, what is our responsibility to reconcile them? And is it sometimes better to just walk away because there's no inroad? And I came to a place where in one particular relationship that had been developing, it came to the place to say, you know what, I just need to walk away, because in order to communicate, we need to be able to have a foundation, right? And maybe the foundation is trust. Maybe there's a trust that develops that says, okay, we may have our differences, but we can agree to certain foundational principles, maybe, or certain agreed rules of engagement, perhaps, that we can then move forward from. Maybe there's a mutual respect, there's a mutual willingness to listen, to be to be responsive, to input, and to be willing to receive input. It's just such a fascination to me, knowing how different we are as humans, that anything ever gets done in the world, or that we are able to communicate at all. And I tend to believe that there's more commonality than not, but there are times perhaps when it's most appropriate to cut ties. It's funny because now, as I'm thinking of it, I had another conversation with some dear friends about a situation where they chose to cut ties also, uh, because there was such a well, when we talk about toxic relationships, it's almost hello, Shosha. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you here. Welcome. So good to have you joining us. We're talking about when realities collide. And, toxic relationship is almost a cliche at this point, but there are situations where there's such an odd or deep manipulation or operative misperception or dissonance that it can be irreconcilable. And I think in the past, in years past, I felt an obligation to try to bridge those gaps to be heard and to be able to hear another. And I think I've come to the place to say that there may be oh, Shosha says this timing is pure perfection. Well, good. It's not just me experiencing this. I hope that as I share the things that I share these mornings, that other people can relate. But I don't know if it was in the air or what. But man, oh man, oh man, just to uh, say, you know what, I don't have the obligation or responsibility to understand or be understood by everybody. And I think getting to that place of allowing is important without malice, without malice to say, oh man, like we are on opposite sides of the world here. Uh, and maybe it's not even opposite sides, because maybe opposites might be able to find some reconciliation, but like we're just on different dimensions here, and I don't see a way that we're going to be able to reconcile this, because what I've seen in this particular instance, in order to reconcile realities with this one person in particular, first of all, it would have required a willingness on both our parts to step outside of our certainty about who we are, knowing who we are. But it was like a misperception that maybe both of us had of the other, that kind of felt insurmountable. And I don't know if you have that experience, but I in the past would have bent myself into all kinds of shapes to be able to address and clear the misunderstanding or the misperception. And at this point, I was able, and I'm grateful for this. And I think it's maybe a sign of evolution on my part to just be able to walk away and to say, I wish you the best. I wish you the best. I don't feel that this serves either of us. And, I wish you goodness, just to move on. I think it's okay. And it doesn't have to be contentious. Whereas we're trying to work through it would be just getting more and more deeply admired. There are times maybe when it's just best to walk away. And that's maybe the most respectful thing to do for both parties involved, to be, unless somebody is engaging me to support them in shifting their experience, it's not my job. It's not my job. And I think so many of us take on that job from a place that's very well meaning, very well intended, but maybe not necessarily well informed, or maybe not necessarily beneficial, because the only way that I could have created a bridge here was to be challenging this other person's reality, and they would be coming back and challenging mine. And, it's just like, okay, it's a battle of realities. And why? There's room for all of us. So Shosha says, feels as if life is a shifting mosaic when puzzle pieces no longer fit, it's time to let go. Stop trying to create boundaries and go with the flow within. I love that. I think it does feel like a shifting mosaic, because this person, this one particular person that I'm referring to, and I had connected really deeply, enjoying each other. And then the context in which we were relating shifted, like we were in this container of an event, and then outside of that, it turned into something else. And in the past, I think I would have held to my original perception and felt an obligation and responsibility to maintain or deepen that relationship, to clear up misunderstandings, to try to resolve the difference. And I'm just very grateful to be at a place where I am able to recognize that difference and respect that difference and not take it personally, and to be able to say the time that we had a time and the time has passed, and that's okay. So like less attachment to having a particular outcome, and also less attachment to my idea of how I think it should be. So there was less wounding, less pain in being able to let go, or even less pain in feeling like I thought it was this and now it's this. Like, to allow for it actually can change. It actually can shift and change. And that's okay. So the question about when realities collide, there may be an opportunity to clarify, there may be an opportunity to build bridges and to create a deeper closeness, but there has to be a deep willingness on both parts to be able to create that kind of growth or transformation or evolution. And I think to be able to allow that, that's not necessarily always the best path for either party, is kind of a blessing to be able to say, okay, you do you, I do me, good luck and blessings. So this notion of gaslighting has been in my field lately, which is a very interesting thing, where these realities collide, where we have an experience that of one thing, and then someone tells us, no, 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 it's something else. And particularly when someone projects onto you who they believe you to be. So the idea here, this is an important thing, is to recognize that people's behavior, all of our behaviors, our own obviously included, is a reflection and projection of our realities, ourselves. So if somebody is perceiving you in a particular way, it doesn't mean to dismiss that out of hand, because there may be some good information in their perception that can expand your own self-awareness and your own sense of being. But we get to check in and assess that perception. Sometimes people can give us wonderful insight into who we are, but also people can be projecting something that is really off base, is not in alignment with who we are. And to be able to discern, to be able to make those distinctions can be challenging. It requires a centeredness, I think, a self-awareness, and a willingness to just look at that and evaluate that. But when someone is, all of us, when we express our opinions, we're expressing our world, right? We're not necessarily expressing truth. We're expressing the truth according to us, right? Or the perception according to us. And so what I was able to witness in this group is to see how everybody, I'm sure myself included, was operating out of their own stories and their own history and their own wounds. And there are times I think I used to feel an obligation or responsibility to help, help, to help people through their wounds, that even at my own expense. And there's a difference, I think there's a difference between supporting people and helping people. Helping people is maybe more of an authority thing, like I know better, I'm going to help you. And I think it's easy for us to fall into those kind of traps, particularly as heart-centered people that are trying to transform. And it's like I'm gonna find my meaning in helping, versus offering support, like as an invitation rather than something I'm trying to do to you. Or it's tricky, right? Because when we have certain capabilities, like if I have a skill that's going to make a difference for you and you're calling for that support, and it feels okay for me to support you, why wouldn't I? Right? um but it's a different thing to be imposing um that will or that perception on somebody else. You can tell from the way I'm speaking about this that I'm still trying to integrate all these things that occurred. um and it's always been a curiosity and a challenge for me, I think, to navigate multiple realities at once. It's like when realities collide, it was insanity to be seeing all the dynamics when you can sort of see the network underneath the surface. It was wild, and finding the place to know, hey, you know what, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to walk away, and sometimes it's just not something that's going to get reconciled. It's okay. It's okay. Not everything not everything goes smoothly. So I guess it's reminding me of that song. Um, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. I think that there's a discernment that comes from a sense of centeredness and self-respect, without the defensiveness, without having to defend or um, explain. That at some point it's okay to just say, I wish you the best, and put a bow on it. So that's it for this morning. I don't know if it made any sense at all, but apparently I'm not alone in these considerations, and this shifting mosaic, as you said, Shosha. So it's great to be back with you all, and I'm just honored and delighted to have the opportunity to share these musings together. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And until next time, with great appreciation and love.